Now, I want to go to a concerning story that I don't think has gotten anywhere near enough attention out of the Caribbean, where communist Cuba has killed 4 people, 4 Americans allegedly, on a speedboat that was registered in Florida. Now, the Cubans have claimed that the passengers were armed Cubans living in the U.S. and had opened fire on officers in Cuban waters. The U.S. says it's carrying out its own investigation. Have a look.
There are a number of things that could have happened here. Suffice it to say, it is highly unusual to see shootouts in open sea like that. It's not something that happens every day. It's something, frankly, that hasn't happened with Cuba in a very long time. But we're going to find out. We're not going to base our conclusions on what they've told us.
Well, joining me to discuss this and a whole lot more is political commentator Stephanie Hamill. Stephanie, welcome to the program. Thanks so much for joining me here. I wanted to get your thoughts on this story because we know that Cuba is under a huge amount of pressure right now. It's been basically cut off, blockaded from the entire world now. They have no oil supplies. They've got nothing going for them as the Trump administration tries to collapse that regime. Do you buy this story that this was just some random speedboaters who were out there and just happened to wander into Cuban waters? Or do you think that maybe there's other things happening in the background that we'll hear about down the track when it comes to American involvement in overthrowing that communist regime?
James, you're so right. The story hasn't gotten enough attention, and there are so many things we just don't know yet. They're just key pieces of the story that we need to find out. And the problem is a lot of this information, most of the information is coming from Cuba's interior ministry. And the problem is, can we trust them? Can we trust the communist country to give us accurate information? I mean, I trust communist regimes' information as much as I trust gas station sushi. So the problem is that this could be a very serious diplomatic issue, considering that it involves a U.S. registered vessel. And as you pointed out, reports so far say that there could be Americans either killed or involved here. And the question is, is Cuba doing, following the right protocols when it comes to international waters and what they can do? And of course, they said that the boat was armed and they shot first, but we don't know that for sure. And another thing that you pointed out is the tensions that we have for Cuba. Cuba has been working alongside with Russia and China. I mean, this is a serious national security threat, and this is why the Trump administration has been so hard on them.
Indeed, indeed. And I want to move on to about another disturbing story. It's all disturbing stories here today, Susie. I mean, Susie Wiles, the chief of staff to Donald Trump. Well, it has been revealed that when she was campaign director for Trump, the Biden administration's FBI subpoenaed current director Kash Patel and current chief of staff Susie Wiles' phone records when both were private citizens. And again, I say, this is when Susie was the campaign director. This is alleged to have happened in 2022 and 2023. This strikes me as incredibly shocking evidence that the Biden White House was taking on a spy operation on its political opponents that I think, frankly, leaves Watergate in the dust.
When I saw this headline, I wasn't surprised at all. And again, I will argue that this is just the tip of the iceberg of everything that's been going on behind the scenes. It's something that Republicans have been talking about since 2016, that the Democrats had been weaponizing these federal agencies to go after political opponents. And it's like every week, every month, every year, we learn more and more about this process and how our government agencies had been used against President Trump, his family, and his inner circle.
Well, I mean, it just seems to me that this is the sort of thing that really proves the whole idea that there is a deep state, Stephanie Hamill, that is out there and that is, reacting as any bureaucracy does to the threat of disruption, which is what Donald Trump represents. But the thing that gets me is that the media, which claims to want to speak truth to power, seems to want to go along with them on this, because you read very little about this.
The fact is, I would agree with you. There is a deep state, and there's just so much evidence and proof of this. And unfortunately, even with President Trump in office and his allies installed in, very important positions within the government, we still have these people operating in the shadows, trying to fulfill and push their own agendas. And it's very obvious because, the Trump administration, every time that they try to make a move or try to move legislation forward, or even get to the bottom of other mysteries that we've been trying to solve over the years, they just can't do it, especially, in this last year as President Trump has been in office and has had and had given instruction to his allies to look into these things. So, it is, it's very disappointing to see that there are people who think that they're more important than the American people who voted President Trump and his inner circle into office.
Absolutely right. Hey, speaking of things operating in the shadows, there's been more developments in the seemingly never-ending Jeffrey Epstein saga as more details emerged about Microsoft billionaire boss Bill Gates. One of two Russian women Gates admitted to having affairs with during his 27-year marriage was indeed helped financially by Jeffrey Epstein, and more than that, apparently used the secret to try to blackmail him. Now, Gates has admitted the affairs, but says he did nothing illicit with Epstein. I don't know, Steph. I mean, some of the stuff that you hear about them talking about vaccines and all sorts of things like this, it all seems very shady. What do you make of it?
Oh, there's just so much to get into. We don't have enough time in this segment to do that. As for Bill Gates, I'm not really interested in his affairs. It's just gross. We obviously heard from his wife, or ex-wife, who seemed to be pretty embarrassed about this, and his relationship to Jeffrey Epstein. I think the most problematic thing is, Bill Gates is trying to pretend that there's really no issue here, but he was hanging out with a convicted pedophile. After 2008, everybody knew that about Jeffrey Epstein. And so, if he's hanging out with women of age and doing whatever he wants to do in his free time, that's his problem. But as you pointed out, there were other emails between Jeffrey Epstein and Bill Gates that are very concerning in regards to things about vaccines, something about like how to get rid of poor people, allegedly. So, those are really troubling emails. So I actually have more questions about those if Bill Gates would like to address those.
Yeah, and also we had the spectacle today of Hillary Clinton testifying before the House Oversight Committee. Now, she's called it a political witch hunt, and there are others saying that, well, they're all covering up because Trump is in the files. But honestly, Steph, if there was damning stuff about Trump in those files, we would have heard about it under Biden or Obama, surely.
We returned to answer questions repetitively, literally over and over again. I don't know how many times I had to say I did not know Jeffrey Epstein. I never went to his island. I never went to his homes. I never went to his offices. So it's on the record numerous times.
The Democrats had been in power with Joe Biden in charge. And if they really were concerned and wanted to be transparent, they would have released these Epstein files a long time ago. So, this is a political strategy. They think that this was going to somehow hurt President Trump by trying to suggest that he is all over the Epstein files and that he did bad things. But actually, we've learned that really he didn't. And actually, he was one of the ones who had been speaking so strongly against Jeffrey Epstein for so many years. But we are seeing so many Democrats and their allies and their donors and people they align with who are mentioned in these emails. Of course, you're not guilty until you're proven guilty, but the association just looks bad. And we've seen the fallout. A lot of people resigning from positions. We've seen what happened to Prince Andrew. So the list goes on. And as for Hillary Clinton, her testimony today, not surprised by what happened there. A lot of gaslighting, denial, and everything else. She said, oh, she never met Epstein all those years. Well, that's interesting because her husband had been on Jeffrey Epstein's private airplane at least 26 to 27 times. Jeffrey Epstein visited the White House 17 times when Bill Clinton was in office. So I really find it hard to believe that she never met Epstein one time.
Steph, I am absolutely shocked here that you say you're having a hard time believing a Clinton. I mean, that's just so cynical. Stephanie Hamill, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time.